course.
Hey, good morning, fans of the Monday Movie Club. If you're wondering why we don't have any clothing on, it's because we're all on
We
vacation.
need more fans.
Yes.
And I still have my shirt on to make sure that any new fans that come because of this don't run away. So
That's right. We're trying to attract more fans. This week was Joel's pick, 1977's groundbreaking vampire movie written and directed by George Romero called Martin. I'm Frank Gaffney. With us as always is Joel in his Superman shirt, Amy Goldman, who's not on vacation but decided to join in and get naked anyway.
Solidarity.
Annie King, who's on the beach in Cancun, and I'm in a hotel in Provincetown, Massachusetts.
Massachusetts.
And Mark Wotis Mark, that's the wrong Martin there.
Mark.
Oh, I watched the wrong show.
Damn, Gina, you watched the wrong show.
not the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so Martin tells the story of a young man who thinks he is a vampire, or is he? Joel, why Martin? And why is this so groundbreaking? I'm not the fan of this genre, so I have no idea why. And please take 20 minutes because I really don't have a lot of comments.
Why Martin? I'm a big fan of George Romero as a writer and director, and I love how he works social commentary into a genre essentially that he got stuck in, unfortunately, because I think
it was a little problem for him just in his career that even though he was trying to innovate the horror genre, then he couldn't get another movie made because he didn't want to get stuck in it.
Correct. And honestly, once you get past the original Night of the Living Dead, before you get to Dawn of the Dead, I actually think two of his best movies come out of that period, and that would be Martin and Night Riders.
So this one actually is like 10 years later after Night of the Living Dead.
Exactly. And it's
Joel, I already have my background ready for Night Riders.
That's Night Riders. It's one.
Oh, okay.
No talking cars. It's about a Renaissance fair, basically. But it's a great movie anyway, and I may put it on next year's list. I haven't decided, but the thing I love about this film specifically is how it tries to subvert your concepts of vampires and what we know of them from movies and books and the media.
And he says right in the movie, it's not magic. There's a whole great scene where he plays on his cousin Cootie. What's his name? Cuda. He plays on his idea of, and our idea, obviously, of what a vampire is by showing up in the actual garb with the fake teeth and all that and going, it's not magic.
Right. It's just a costume. There is no real magic.
It was a costume. Yes.
So, this is usually where you take it back and you run through your things. You want me to keep going?
Sure. No. I can go back. So, and so I do have a question though. Are the black and white bits his memory or just a fantasy?
I think that's up to the viewer.
Oh, okay.
Because
he certainly looks younger. His hair is a little shorter.
Right.
So it kind of looks like it could have happened before.
Correct.
But then
and
again,
it's also the way Romero stages them. They could go either way. Although George Romero is on record as saying he just thinks that Martin and Cuda are just nuts. That they're not real. There's no real vampirism in the film. It's this kid has a lot of problems, and it's partially because of the family lineage.
Right, because he thinks there are vampires in the family.
Correct. So.
But hold on. This is in my notes, but I'll just say it now. Then it was very confusing. Why did he immediately assume and kept calling him Nosferatu? He didn't even know his own cousin. Like how would he immediately say you're a vampire out of nowhere and keep calling him that?
But he knew when you get to the scene where they're going through the family album, he explains all of that this is, Martin is part of a lineage that this family has, where there are vampires, and this is how it is, and this is how it's been. And the objective is, at some point, one of the elders in the family takes in the younger vampire to save his soul and then dispatch him from this earth. And that's cool.
Right. He says, "First I will save your soul and I will destroy you."
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. Okay.
All right, so that's the whole movie right there in a nutshell. So did he? So you think Martin truly believed himself that he was a vampire,
Yes.
and so the cousin actually not a vampire slayer like Buffy in that cool TV show, but he's a grocer.
He's a well,
And
you
the
know,
whole weirdness with the watching them, kill the chicken and what? Why?
Okay, so the thing about killing the chicken, the film was shot in Braddock, Pennsylvania, and part of the reasons it was shot there is because it was a dying town. It's apparently still a dying town. I mean,
He's not from that area.
Romero is. Romero,
Mhm.
is from Western Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
He went to Carnegie Mellon. He's, I think he was born in Pittsburgh, and he worked for Mr. Rogers for a bit, doing
That's funny.
industrial films and stuff.
Severing heads.
Yeah, exactly. Severing heads. I think it was just a way of using extra footage to kind of show this is what this town is still like. They still have a butcher.
Yeah, there was some really nice shots of the town, very, very atmospheric, right?
Yeah.
The funny thing is, side note, Frank Gaffney, my uncle Tommy worked at a chicken factory.
Right.
And we would go there. It was like two doors down from the school I went to, and he would take great pleasure in cutting off a chicken's head and let it run around so we could scream and run out. But he'd always give us a nickel. All right. So the kid who plays Martin is John Amplas, who
Yes.
really didn't have much of a career besides George Romero films.
Correct.
And he actually sounds a lot like Mark Hamill in this movie, I thought. Did anybody else think that?
A little bit.
And so he even in this movie, he walks the very fine line between being this vampire and being a teenage boy, really. It's his coming of age story, this movie.
Yeah.
It's his way, really, I think, of dealing with the world that he doesn't really feel like he belongs in. So, as I said, this is not my genre of movie. I've seen very few of these films. I don't know what is cliche and what is groundbreaking. And, it looks a little cheapish with the tomato soup blood thing.
Well, it was a
70s.
low-budget independent film from the mid 70s. It's
Yeah.
not going to look like Indiana Jones and
So-
the Dial of Destiny.
So, Joe, what was really groundbreaking about the movie?
I don't know that I would call it groundbreaking per se, beyond the concept of it really does try to invert and subvert your thoughts about what the vampire genre is. You really hadn't had that at that
Right.
point, beyond a few comedies or blaxploitation films like Blackula, where it's just
Oh, yeah.
so.
I've definitely heard of those.
Yeah.
But so, yeah, it looks and feels very much like a B movie from the 1970s, but, it's kind of slow paced and it's thoughtful. It is thoughtful and it's even somber.
Yes.
And it asks us to care about this character who's a killer from the beginning of the movie. It made me think of Dexter a little bit.
Mhm.
And, and in Martin's world, really, there's nothing cool or funny about being a vampire. It's a problem. It's a real problem. So the other thing that I thought was interesting is that George Romero is actually in the movie.
Yes.
And he
Oh.
plays Father Howard, who reminded me a little bit of The Exorcist.
He reminded me so much of him that I knew that it was George Romero, but I thought for sure it was the guy from The Exorcist.
Right. What was his name?
Father Karras, or no, the other one.
The kid, the guy, the young guy.
Young
Yeah,
guy.
the young priest.
Jason John.
Yeah,
Anyway.
yeah. I can't remember at this point. It's been a while.
Yeah. And he was also a playwright. So, but also George Romero also edited the film, which I think may have been a better idea because there are definitely parts where the best edited sequence I thought was that whole ridiculousness of Martin breaking into the married woman's house, assuming she's home alone, and she's there with her lover.
Yeah.
And then the whole phone bit, when she first she yells, "I don't know him." I'm like, oh my God, that was so funny. And the whole phone bit with hang up the phone. How many times have we said that when you're trying to call and somebody picks up the extension?
Yeah.
That would never work today.
No.
Yeah.
No.
And it really
Hanging up the phone with her foot. I was like, what are you doing?
But it really is a sad movie, not only for Martin, but that poor complaining old housewife he sleeps with finally. Mommy issues, Mike?
Yeah.
Little
Yes.
mommy issues there. So that was kind of sad. And then the thing I really liked about the movie was the score. Oh my goodness, it was nice and moody and atmospheric. It really was. It was very interesting, the score of the movie. And even the scene with mocking Kuda's beliefs in the playground was kind of funny.
Yeah.
I said also about his career, it really was kind of Romero's career. It was kind of sad that he couldn't get another movie made when everybody else was ripping him off of all the things he innovated in his Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
So
unfortunately, the longer he went within the genre, I think the more burnt out he got. His best films are, the first three Living Dead movies, Night, Dawn, and Day, and Creepshow.
Night, Dawn, and Day.
Night, Dawn, and Day, and Creepshow, this, and Night Riders. Everything else is kind of a bit of a mess.
What was the Dead that was the funny one in the mall?
That's Dawn of the Dead.
Dawn, right?
Dawn of the Dead.
Dawn.
Yeah, I remember
Was
watching
that remade?
Yes, it was remade.
Was
I've-
it all remade at this point?
They've all been remade at this point, but they're not. But that's the funny part. All the remakes are not connected in any way, and Romero had little to do with the remakes of Dawn or Day of the Dead. So
Did he get money at least?
I believe he got at least that.
All right. Well, he's dead now.
Unfortunately, yes.
All right. So I'm 2 stars for me. I'm not apologizing.
Nope.
Whatever it contributed to the genre is lost on me. It was a very odd movie, and makes sense that Joel picked it. Do we think, Annie? Can we hear you? Are you?
Can you hear me?
Did you finally watch it?
I did. I watched it this morning, so it was
I
pretty
did too.
awkward because my 10-year-old nephew was in the room. My mom was in the room. My aunt was in.
Oh God.
So I kept saying, "Don't watch, don't look."
At any point, did somebody say, "What the hell is this?"
Oh yeah, many people who walked through because we've got like 8 people in one room right now, where we were watching. So it was quite interesting. Everyone would be like, "What are you watching? What are you watching?" And then they're like, "I thought you had to watch the movie club." And I'm like, "This is the movie for the movie club. Why?" So yeah, it was interesting. Plus, like people cooking breakfast at the same time as we're trying to watch it and everything. So I may not have seen all the parts.
And so, of the parts you did see,
Yes, it was strange. I kept saying, "What's going on? Who's he talking to?" So it was for me a little jumbled. And I was like, "Is the black and white flashbacks like what happened in his past?" And I was like, "Who is that woman? Is that the woman that he like brought the meat to?" Or I got confused a lot.
Annie, I thought the woman that he broke in the house to was the same woman that he was trying to sleep with as well. They looked very similar to me, and I had to go back and rewatch, and I was like, okay, they slightly different haircuts, but they could be sisters.
A lot of the women were very similar looking.
Yeah,
in the
That's
whole
what white
movie.
women looked like in the 70s.
in Pennsylvania.
They all look alike.
Yeah.
Yes, and I was like, "Who is the woman on the train at the beginning?" Very confusing. Yeah. So for me, maybe I need to watch it again, maybe someday. But I'll go with the 2.5 stars.
Oh,
just because I didn't see a lot of it, so I'm not sure if it was good or not.
And Annie, I keep seeing your necklace and I keep thinking her nipple is sticking out. Oh no.
Oh,
She wishes they were that high.
Yeah.
yeah.
Nowhere near there. All right, Mark, this seems like it could be your genre.
You're right.
Genre, yes. Movie, no.
And you had never seen it before.
I'd never heard of it before.
I never heard of it either.
Yeah.
That's what I like to do.
And I
No,
agree.
but I must say, Joel, sorry, that the Franken list, which again, I compiled from sources that picked the greatest movies of all time, and
Yes.
Martin was on that list.
Was
Not
it?
only is it also in the registry?
Martin is not in the registry now.
No. So it was on my list. I don't remember what number it was, but it's on the list.
What's the lowest number you have?
4,000 and something.
it's probably
Everything's on the list.
One above that, I would assume, right?
No, it's up there. I'm gonna look right now. Mark 10.
No, well, that's why I'll just
It's
start by
number
saying
2,741,
Wow.
right above Pelican Brief,
Wow.
It should
and
be
right
above-
after Lost in America.
All right, I can respect that ranking there.
And I have 4,208 movies on my list right now.
What's the last one?
yeah.
Oh, geez, I just closed it. Sorry. Well, Leonard Part 6.
How did Leonard Part 6 even make that list?
Yeah.
You
Because
have
Joel, you voted.
I voted.
Exactly.
No, I'm sorry. It will be Sundown from 1941.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of it?
No.
No. Okay. All right. So Mark G.
Yeah, well, I'll start off by saying what you said there. I mean, thanks to Joel and to you guys too for making me watch movies that I never would have watched or even heard of. But I will say that Martin was a creepy dude, and that's coming from me. I mean, he was super creepy.
Well, I mean, we had creepy dudes and movies in the 70s too. I mean, Willard with the rats, right? And Ben, right? So
Sure.
it was done.
Norman Bates,
Um,
60s.
I just don't really like movies like this. The main character rarely talks, and just like kind of Annie said too, I didn't know what was going on. Sometimes I didn't know what was happening. The flashbacks were confusing. I got what they were doing after a while, but it took a while. My first thought. My first thought when we see his old cousin at the train station is that he looked like Colonel Sanders, and at least I made myself crack up. And every time I saw him, I was like, "It's Colonel Sanders." And his female cousin. Why does she look like an 80-year-old, 20-year-old?
You're right.
It reminds me of Agnes Moorehead and Nurse Ratched. Like I've seen them both because of you guys. Agnes Moorehead was in Citizen Kane, and Nurse Ratched was in some of the other movie. I don't know. I think it was the Hitchcock movie or
I think
something.
he was just trying to convey that she was more a religious kind of girl.
No. The actress herself looks like she's made to be 80. Just like the other two I referenced. Like you can't see them as young women. Like even when they were young, they looked old.
Yeah.
For me.
Having watched, there's a documentary on the disc I have that was shot within the last 2 years, and Christine Forrest is one of the people interviewed, and I was like, no, she looks 80 now.
Still.
And I read she was married to George Romero at some point.
They got married after Martin. They met on a previous film that he had done, and then they wound up getting married after Martin.
Oh, just like you and Natasha.
Yes, exactly.
And her dad was in the movie.
Yes.
Oh, I
There's
think that-
a lot of local people, right?
There's a lot of, yeah, I mean, I'll get to that when it comes back to me.
All right.
I did like the scene when Martin broke into the uncle's room and ate the garlic and all that stuff. That was fun. After watching the Dahmer special this year, Martin definitely reminded me of the same, like it's like a compulsion to kill. Like I don't want to do it, but it's gonna happen.
Right.
Here I go again. And I know Tom Savini at least. That I was happy for. I've seen him in a number of other things. He was what was he? The uncle in this? Arthur, no,
the boyfriend. It was. Why am I blanking on the character's name? Christine Forrester's boyfriend, Arthur.
Yeah.
Didn't
The guy with the mustache. He's got like the same mustache for like the rest of his life in every movie he's in.
Yeah, but he was clean shaven in this movie.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess I see.
Didn't he also do the special effects or something?
Yes, he also did the special effects.
He's a special effects and stunt guy, but he's associated with a lot of zombie movies and stuff. And for me, I really associate him with, if you've never seen it, Grindhouse, the better part of Grindhouse, which was done by Rodriguez, not Tarantino, Planet Terror. He has a great part in there, and it's funny. I think I feel like he gets killed in like every movie he's going to be in. You know, that's his thing. Yeah, this one just not for me. For me, I'll stick with Night of the Living Dead. That was slow too, but at least to me, it was a creepy build. So for me, it's also 2 stars.
And I just remembered another part that I thought was interesting. Again, with the social commentary of the time, him calling into the radio show to try and debunk the whole thing. Very much the social commentary of the time.
What did the DJ call him? What was his nickname?
The Count.
Count.
The Count.
Yeah, that was cute.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking that, Mark, like, what did he call him? Like sucko, suck guy, something like that. The Count.
The Count.
Oh, damn it. I always talk too loud for him.
Oh.
Hi, Aim, what's your count?
That's my count. That's cute. Annie, all I kept thinking was, how I am not into vampire movies and everything, but this was no
I
Love at
like.
First Bite.
Oh, well,
Annie's in my favorite movie in like 1970.
Yeah, I know, you made us watch it.
No, I didn't. I made you watch it. I did not put it on this list because you didn't like it, and I'm still thinking I'm doing it. Great movie.
It is a
Annie
great
and I
movie.
used to quote it all the time.
Yeah,
Those are
it's a great
great
movie for a 12-year-old girl, sure.
No, it's a great movie for anybody. It's a funny film.
Really is. I don't know how you didn't like it, Frank. I really don't. Mark,
Didn't see
maybe
it
I'm
with-
going to make us watch it as my replacement to Raging Bull.
Didn't
Let's
see
go.
it with- I didn't see it with an audience, that's the problem.
Maybe. I took some notes. I don't get this whole genre. I never got George Romero. I think I saw Dawn of the Dead and I'm way too young for it. And I'm not into vampires. I mean, What We Do in the Shadows is my all-time favorite comedy TV show of all time, forever, all time. But I don't really get this whole thing. I wrote 30 minutes in and his complete lack of dialogue is ridiculous. But then I kind of realized he just didn't talk to anybody except his cousin.
Yeah.
I found the extreme close-ups to be torture. Like, how does he and the cinematographer think if you see something like this, you're going to be able to even tell what it is? I hated that.
On a 40-foot screen, it would be pretty impressive.
Impressive? Why? Because you could
Yeah.
zoom the camera in close?
Yeah, because to see it, an image that big, it gives it that amount of importance.
All right, I'll give you that.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
Yeah, when you're
I
watching it on your
definitely
phone,
remember-
Amy, it takes on a different.
I would never watch a movie on my phone.
I definitely remember being in the movie theater and there was a scene, all right, I'm gay, in Yentl, where their hands finally meet and coming in slowly and 40 feet and them going like that was so beautiful.
Hmm.
It's different on a big screen.
All right, I'll give you that. I said, Annie might appreciate this. Of course, when he's in the car with the woman at the gas station and she opens the glove compartment, what's in there? Pantyhose and tampons.
tampon.
That's
you
what
need
women
that.
always have in the glove compartment.
You need that. It's back
It
up.
was it was the 70s. What did you
Kinda.
expect?
And they were legs pantyhose.
Yeah.
which I thought was
Yes,
cute.
I saw that.
Where else would you put them?
Sure. He tells the granddaughter he's glad she doesn't believe Tatakuda, yet he says he's 84 years old with no hint of irony or sarcasm. I kind of know
Yeah.
what that
Yes, and?
means. I don't know.
I think that's supposed to be that the flashbacks really were him. He believed that he was around 50 years ago, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
When he handed the woman at the house the sign that said, "I am deaf, please help me," I had to go back because I thought the son, "I am dead, please help me." I was like, "Oh, that's an interesting take." He wrote, "I'm dead." And
Yeah.
she was like, "Yeah." And then she said, "He can't hear anything." I'm like, "He's dead? What?" Love that. One whole note. I hate the music. I hated the music.
Oh.
I hated the soundtrack. I hated the bizarre sound effects of the constant banging. And it just sounded like some guy going like this with two pots. I hated it.
I thought it was
But-
interesting because it was innovative in that it wasn't your normal symphonic violin and it still created that mood.
but it was ugly to me. It hurt my ears.
So it's funny because I watched it with the closed caption,
Uh-huh.
and it would be like music, and there'd be applause, and I'm like, applause? Where's the applause coming from?
Oh, that's funny.
Okay, that's weird.
Yeah, that is weird.
Oh, I wrote, I hate the bizarre sound effects, like when he burst into the woman's room that was cheating on her husband, and you kept hearing these sound effects like echoing Martin, Martin,
Yeah.
killing me. And she was hanging up the phone with her foot and had the medicine. Oh, and he had the medicine. Every time he had that vial, he had to have it hanging out of his mouth. Just stop, take it out of your mouth and put it down. Do something is driving me crazy. I hated it. That's all I wrote. I'll give it 2 stars because it's George Romero. It's, you know, it's important.
Joel, the music, do you want to address that first?
Sure, if you'd like me to. I love the
Yeah.
music. It's weird. It's discordant. It fits the mood of the film. I think it works beautifully with the film.
Didn't I just say that?
You did. I'm repeating everything you said, Frank, because that you understood it. You got it right.
Yeah.
I really like this movie. I have for a long time. It's a highly underrated, almost undiscovered gem in his
Certainly underseen.
a body of work. And part of that is because of, at this point in time, because of the producer, Richard Rubinstein, who's actually in the film. He is the husband of the woman that's cheating. Yeah, you see him briefly a couple of times. He's going to get, I need some money for him, blah, 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 whatever.
Right.
That's him. This is very much a family affair in that sense, that the film, the house that Martin and Kuda live in was actually the house of Tony and Pat Buba, who worked on the film, who were in the film.
Booba?
Buba, B-U-B-A, Buba. It's an Italian family. The duplex, the boys lived on one side, and the parents and grandmother lived on the other side. There was an upstairs kitchen.
So they filmed the movie in that house?
In that house, so the mother would be cooking all of them lunch in the upstairs kitchen while they were taking over the other side of the house to film everything at ungodly hours.
That explains the crazy decorating.
Yes, they did not actually add much to it from what they've said. It was
It sounds like a
that
couple
one thing where the one house where the wallpaper was the door.
Yes.
What is going on right now?
It sounds like a couple of guys in high school trying to make a movie.
And that's really kind of what it was. That's all Night of the Living Dead was, except they just did it somewhere else. When
10 years later, you think he would have. I mean, obviously the budget was 10 times what Night of the Living Dead was.
Not really.
Yeah.
not really. I think Night of the Living Dead was made for maybe $80,000 or $90,000, and Martin had about the same budget at the end of the day. And the films that he made between Night of the Living Dead and Martin are interesting failures at best. There's a romantic comedy in there that doesn't work. There's a pseudo horror film that's more like the Stepford Wives, but about witches, that almost works.
Joel, I don't know why I'm being a little I don't know what I'm being.
Okay.
About George Romero. Why did he not just go to a big studio and do a big movie?
Yeah.
Because at the time, the studio system worked in a different manner. Okay, with Night of the Living Dead, you're coming in the end of the 60s.
Right.
He made what was essentially a B film that was shown as the second half of a double feature most of the time in theaters where there were little kids, not knowing what the hell they were expecting. While the movie made a lot of money, it didn't open any doors for him because he didn't make any money off of it. They screwed up the copyright on the film, so that's why for decades there have been all these crappy bootlegs released on VHS and
Right.
DVD of the film.
Right.
He was just never able to parlay that into anything else until after Dawn of the Dead. And
So
even
Joel,
then,
who made all the money then from Night of the Living Dead? The studio?
distributors
Distributors. Okay.
And then the bootleggers, obviously.
and the bootleggers. I mean, that's one of the reasons why the Tom Savini directed remake got made, was to kind of recopyright part of the film to shift money back towards, you know, George and the people who put up the money in the first place.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and I think it's sad because I think he is a very talented director. I think he has great ideas that they're not always thought through to the end. And as I said, I think, you know, Night of the Living Dead is a brilliant film. It comes out of nowhere at a time where things like that were rarely seen in its graphic nature. Now you look at it and it's like, oh, it's goofy and silly.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think it's a brilliantly structured story that works wonders. And I think Martin comes very close to that. I think Knight Riders comes very close to that. Everything.
I remember. Now I'm going back to Night of the Living Dead. I totally remember when they first showed it, like on PBS, and people thought, like War of the Worlds, that this was really happening because
Right.
it was, you know, that kind of bulletin.
Right.
kind of-
And the funny thing is, you know, you think of, okay, so that started the whole zombie thing. They're not, you know, he never thought of them as zombies. They're not referred to as zombies in that film. They're ghouls. That's what he, you know, in the script, that's what they're referred to as. But, you know, he always looked at zombies or the, you know, the Haitian voodoo kind of thing that, you know, was being done in the 30s with Bela Lugosi in White Zombie and stuff like that. So,
Right.
Or, you know,
All right. So back to Martin, Joel. Sorry, I
sorry,
sidetracked.
that's okay. That's okay. It's I like the horror genre, and I think this straddles it in a couple of different ways to make it more interesting, by taking those vampire tropes and kind of turning them on their heads a little bit, playing with the idea that what is real and what is fantasy. I like the fact that what Martin sees and how he has to cope in reality to fill that vision are two completely different things. Obviously, you know, he sees the Gothic black and white, you know, villagers hunting him down, while
Yeah.
the reality is he needs to use, you know, drugs to sedate his victims and then use a razor blade to cut them open in order to actually drink their blood. And he
Right.
obviously has some sort of sickness that causes him to do that. I'm sure there's a mental component, that might be a physical component based on what we see in the film. We don't know, but I love the fact that he struggles with it. It's not like he is, you know, this evil incarnate thing that is doing this because he has nothing else to do. He's doing this because he's driven to it. He
Right.
has
And
to.
now I'm going back to Dexter again.
Yeah.
That was exactly his problem. He knew it was wrong, but he was compelled to do it.
Right. And the thing that I think works well in his favor is the fact, because of that struggle, he's eventually, you kind of see him starting to overcome it by the end of the film, after he slept with Mrs. Santini and, you know, and doesn't kill her, and seems to be trying to form a real relationship with somebody.
Right.
So it all goes to shit, but you know, it's,
Right. So the last 3 minutes.
yes.
Annie, did somebody just ask you if you wanted a pina colada? And you said
Yeah.
no?
It's only 9:34.
Yeah.
So?
It's
You're on
5 o'clock
vacation.
somewhere.
Yes, exactly. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. All right, Joe. So what's your ranking from
I
Martin?
am going to give it, in all of its low budget glory, it still deserves a 3.5 from me. So
All right. All right. That's fine. Oh my God. You know what I just realized? I
What?
must be driving Michelle crazy.
and just so
Hey,
you know,
Michelle.
I don't know if you noticed,
Heather, Michelle.
Heather.
You don't
Oh,
even know
Heather.
her name.
and since you complained last week about me not having the,
Oh yeah, I saw that back there.
yeah, so I love this
And
artwork.
that's the Blu-ray. It's the
This is
Blu-ray?
actually it's a recent 4K remaster.
Ooh.
Looks gorgeous on the disc. There's it's like a 100-page booklet in here with essays on it, and
Well, somebody must
soundtrack.
really like this movie.
I do really like this movie a lot.
No, I mean, whoever put this together.
Oh yeah, and this is the thing. This is a British import. There is no current in-print release of this in this country because Richard P. Rubenstein is a greedy motherfucker.
So how did the UK get it and not the US?
This company was willing to pay him,
Ah,
and the thoughts that we can probably make money. Rubenstein unfortunately sits on the licensing rights for both this and Dawn of the Dead. So go ahead.
but is it playable in this region?
4K discs are playable anywhere in the world on any player.
Oh, that's
As long as it's a
Oh, wow.
4K player. They finally got rid of the region coding on 4K. So
Because I was going to ask the same thing, Frank. Like, how are you
I
playing
know.
it?
not that I'm looking for it or will even watch it,
Yeah.
but that's great.
yeah, and there's some
All right,
great
cool.
extras on it, and so anyway.
All right, cool. And that's it, right? Okay, so next week. Oh, I didn't write it. What's next week?
I have it right here.
Next week is
Next week
Rocky.
is Rocky, a
Rocky.
movie choice.
All
Mark's
right.
choice. This is definitely a movie I love, 1976. It is available where? On Netflix. You can watch it on
Oh,
Netflix.
good.
Or my four DVD box set, 5 DVD box set, Rocky 1 through 5. You come over to my house and watch it with me too.
All of them?
That invitation goes for anybody. If you would like Mark's address, just
Mm-hmm.
write it on the
But
bottom.
you got to sit through all 5.
In the same day?
And then Creed.
Yes. Well, Rocky
Yeah.
Balboa.
Yeah,
Rocky
I was about to
Balboa
say you
is-
skipped over Rocky Balboa to jump to Creed. That's wrong.
But it's right at the same time.
That's only nine movies about boxing.
And the
I've
complete
actually never
running
seen
time
Rocky
of the-
5. I refuse to watch it. I've owned it for 20 years. I won't watch it.
All right, so that's it for us. We will see you next time. Go watch a movie.
And also with you.
Go put on a shirt.
Bye.